Today we're comparing the ROG Flow Z13 with the ROG Zephyrus G14. And I know what you're thinking. Why would you compare a tablet with a gaming laptop? Well, the Flow Z13 is the fastest tablet ever, so this comparison might be closer than you think. So let's get right into it. And please like and subscribe if you like these type of videos. I obviously don't have to tell you that the form factor for these devices is wildly different. While the Zephyrus G14 is a regular thin and light gaming laptop, the Flow Z13 is a tablet with a stand that props it up and has a folio keyboard that can be detached, basically like a Microsoft Surface tablet. Because of this, the Zephyrus is definitely better for use on the go, since you can easily pick it up and use it with one hand. Meanwhile, the Flow Z13 is a bit floppy, so you kind of need two hands to handle it. Using it on your lap is pretty okay, but it can't really beat a regular laptop form factor. The Zephyrus has a full aluminum body, which means it feels very sturdy and can probably take a beating or two. The Flow Z13 on the other hand is made of a mix of aluminum and plastic, which is fine, and the keyboard is made of a faux leather, which feels very nice to the touch. But because of this detachable keyboard, it's a bit flexy, since it doesn't have much support on the bottom. So if you're a picky person in terms of keyboards, a regular laptop form factor might suit you better. They are pretty similar in terms of weight though, which is nice, and they're also about as thick. But obviously the Flow Z13 can be thinner if you exclude the keyboard. Their specs is where it gets very interesting though. The Zephyrus has a more typical separate CPU and dedicated GPU, but the Flow Z13 has a CPU with very powerful integrated graphics. So what are the benefits of having an iGPU instead of a dedicated GPU? Well, the Flow Z13 has very fast memory between the CPU and iGPU. This means that you can manually configure how much VRAM the GPU gets. And once we dedicate more memory to the iGPU, it suddenly becomes a lot more interesting. But we'll see in the benchmarks how they perform. They are pretty similar in terms of port selection though. The Zephyrus G14 has one more USB-A port, but the Flow Z13 has two USB 4 ports with power delivery. They both use Asus's new connector for charging, which is nice, but the Flow Z13's brick is actually a higher wattage than the one on the Zephyrus G14. This doesn't really change their size though, and they're pretty much the same weight and dimensions. They both also support up to 100 watts of USB-C charging, so you could use any charger you'd like. Now obviously, there's a huge difference between their keyboards. The Zephyrus G14 has a regular laptop keyboard, and in my opinion, one of the best keyboards on a laptop. The Flow Z13's keyboard is removable and can either be propped up like this or laid flat like this. The keys themselves are excellent and very satisfying to press down. But because the keyboard doesn't have much support on the bottom, it is more flimsy and flexes a lot more than on the G14. So typing on your lap is definitely a lot more comfortable on the Zephyrus G14 since it doesn't move around as much. Both of these keyboards do have an RGB backlight, which is great, but the backlight on the Zephyrus definitely gets a lot brighter. It's pretty much the same story for the trackpad. They're both high quality and definitely large enough. And the clicks on both are very satisfying. But again, the trackpad on the Flow Z13 lacks the stability of the Zephyrus, since it has no support on the bottom. This is especially noticeable on your lap, where it becomes a bit annoying to use. I've also encountered an issue with the Flow Z13 where at random times the trackpad either has very delayed input or it doesn't register input at all. I'm not sure if this is a software or a hardware issue, but nonetheless it is pretty annoying. Both of these devices have excellent screens though. The Zephyrus G14 has a 14-inch OLED display, while the Flow Z13 has a 13.4-inch IPS LCD display. And that OLED display is the first big difference you'll notice between them. In brighter rooms, they both have very great colors and are awesome for any content you watch on them. But the perfect blacks and infinite contrast of an OLED are just unbeatable by an LCD display. Especially in darker rooms, you'll really start to notice the backlight bleeding of an LCD panel, while an OLED panel in the dark is just perfect. But on the other hand, the Flow Z13's display has a way higher refresh rate. And the difference between 180Hz and 120Hz really is noticeable, especially in faster paced games. But another big point is that the Flow Z13's display needs to be propped up, while the Zephyrus G14's display can just stay up on its own, of course. So the Zephyrus G14 is a bit more versatile in certain scenarios. Now, Asus has gotten very good at doing speakers on laptops. So how does the Flow Z13 compare to the current speaker king of Windows laptops? Well, it does alright. I'm just kidding, it gets absolutely annihilated by the Zephyrus G14. While the Flow Z13 speakers are pretty alright, it lacks bass and they sound a bit dull. Meanwhile, the Zephyrus G14 has a lot more bass, clarity, and sheer volume. This is probably because the Flow Z13 only has these two little speakers at the front of the display, while the Zephyrus G14 has big top-firing speakers and also subwoofers on the bottom, which really give you that extra kick. The Flow Z13 actually has two cameras, one on the front and one on the back. But I'm comparing their front cameras since those will probably be used the most frequently. Now let's finally compare their performance. How does the fastest tablet compare to a gaming laptop? Well, in terms of CPU performance, the Flow Z13 handily beats the Zephyrus G14 by quite a lot, scoring desktop-like results and reaching the top of the charts. And in 3D Mark TimeSpy, the Z13's iGPU gets very close to the G14's RTX 4070, which is pretty damn impressive. But the iGPU is not faster than that RTX 4070. Barely. But now comes the really exciting part. Which one of these is better at playing games?
You motherfucker, you man. Huh? Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. Fuerte, cabrón. Ik was een hond die verdrinkt.
So, as you saw in all the benchmarks, the iGPU in the Flow Z13 got very close to a full dedicated graphics card. The fact that integrated graphics can be this fast is really exciting for the future of handhelds. And sure, it did not beat an RTX 4070, but it is about on par with a mobile RTX 4060. And the CPU on the Flow Z13 is actually a lot faster than the Ryzen 9 on the Zephyrus G14. And to add on top of that, being able to manually increase the VRAM on the Flow Z13 is a huge advantage. So while the Zephyrus G14 is stuck with 8GB of VRAM, the Flow Z13 can get up to 24GB of VRAM. And actually even more if you get a model with more RAM. So it will be the better option for VRAM intensive tasks like future games or AI workloads. But in terms of raw performance, that RTX 4070 is still a little faster than the Flow Z13's iGPU. But you can't use any of that performance if you run out of battery, right? So I tested both of their batteries in two scenarios, under light use and while gaming. In the light use scenario, I play a YouTube video with the display at full brightness, so 500 nits, with their displays at 60 Hz and the keyboard backlight off. The Zephyrus G14 lasted 9 to 10 hours, while the Flow Z13 lasted around 7 to 8 hours, so a bit less. And in the gaming scenario, I played Battlefield 1 with their power profiles on performance, with both of them on iGPU mode. But they both lasted about an hour to an hour and a half, so nothing special compared to other gaming laptops. I actually expected the Flow Z13 to be a bit better in terms of battery life, since it only has an iGPU, but I think because that iGPU is so powerful, it might not be very power efficient. However, the Flow Z13 has a way better cooling system. The Zephyrus G14 pulls air through the bottom of the laptop and exhausts it at the back, just like any other laptop. But this can make your legs pretty hot, and the fans can get easily blocked if you're using it on your lap. But the Flow Z13's hot parts are at the top part of the device, so it can pull air from the back and exhaust it at the top. This means that it can breathe a lot better regardless of where it's seated. And this results in way better temperatures than the Zephyrus G14 during gaming or any other heavy workload. And less heat and better airflow also means less fan noise. In terms of upgradeability, they're both not very great, but the Zephyrus G14 is a little bit better. If you open up the Flow Z13, you can't really upgrade anything. It does have this little door at the back that houses an M.2 NVMe SSD slot, but it's only for the smaller 2230 sizes. The Zephyrus G14, on the other hand, has a full-size M.2 slot, which you could put up to 4 TB of storage in, and it also has a removable Wi-Fi card slot, which is pretty handy. Unfortunately, they both have soldered RAM, so no upgrades there. So these devices are more similar than you thought, right? Well, that's the way they're priced as well. The Flow Z13 can be found for around $1,900 to $2,000, but it does have a higher spec model which is more expensive at around $2,500. The Zephyrus G14 has an MSRP of around the same price of $2,000, but it can actually be found at lower prices much more easily, since it's nearly a year old by now. So you might find a lot better deals on the Zephyrus. So here comes the big question then. Which one of these two is better? Well, it really depends. The Flow Z13 is a very impressive device. AMD and Asus have created a tablet that can rival dedicated GPUs and beat the fastest CPUs in gaming laptops. And this is very exciting for people that like small form factor PCs or just laptops in general. Together with this cooling solution, it's actually perfect for if you want to comfortably game on your lap. But I think it's a little too expensive right now. The Zephyrus G14 is quite a bit cheaper and it does have a faster GPU. And the more classic laptop form factor is a lot handier to move around with if you use your laptop on the go. So here's the breakdown. If you need lots of VRAM for applications, you play games on your lap a lot or just want a cooler running device, and if you enjoy the Microsoft Surface form factor, get the Flow Z13. But if you want a more portable package to move around with, if you want a sturdier laptop experience, and if you do work on your laptop as well, then get the Zephyrus G14. If the Flow Z13 drops in price, it can actually be a better option than the G14. So keep watching for deals and stay frosty. Now let me give a huge shout out to my YouTube members. Inky, Soundwive, Thomas, Mr. Frosty Dude, Dropzone1, Martijn Snijkers, and David Gill. If you become a YouTube member, you can get early access to content of mine, a shout out at the end of every video, and you'll support me as a creator to make these videos. And you'll also be really cool, and you can use cool gifts like these in the comments. So that is pretty much it for this video. I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.